There's some that'll like over time, they'll build back up. You're going to run into issues. You're building houses. You've got all these different complexities. Like it's going to be a turbulent ride. And a good investor knows that, right? They know that what I'm looking at right here is as good as it gets. So if it gets tough and all of a sudden that person that's there doesn't have the passion to drive through, that's a problem for your investment.
Right.
Right. Versus if you're like, it doesn't matter what it takes, I will get through this. Right. That's going to be a better return than the person that failed and lost all your money.
Alrighty, welcome back to another edition of the Hideaways Show Behind the Curtain. Mike, what's happening, man?
Too much, man. Went to Lowe's, got, I think, the seventh grill that I picked up this month. So
you just going for that man status. Like I went to Lowe's and I got a grill.
Starting it right off there, man. Got 2 grill brushes. Who gets 2 grill brushes? Everybody knows that's who gets 2 grill brushes.
Are you on a first name basis with the guys at Lowe's yet?
I would be if I didn't go to so many different Lowe's, but it's always like a random one. The one thing I'll say though, man, is like we've really dialed in getting like, it's like I want the grill and I want it assembled and I want to pick it up here and I want you to put the grill cover and the grill kit inside and an extra propane tank. You know what I mean? And so you like show up, scan your thing, you're out of there in 5 minutes. It's great.
Yep. Nothing wrong with that.
And help. One of the things I've realized, I show up places and I'm like, hey, can you come with me and help me lift this in the truck? And they're like, oh yeah.
Look at you. You're even delegating at the store when you're picking out items. Dude, I love it.
Hey, there's just not time in the day. You got to.
Nah, so, I hear you there. So yeah. I feel like I'm a new man today. I was, for whatever reason, I was out for the count yesterday. I don't know whether it was sickness or heat exhaustion. I'll tell you right now. Whatever it wasn't fun. So I woke up this morning and I was like, I am ready to run through a brick wall. I'm so excited. Plus I get to do this podcast. So it's going to be a good day.
What could be better?
Yeah. I asked Gavin on our way, taking him to daycare this morning. I said, I'm like, it's going to be a good day. And he goes, why? I'm like, it's just going to be a good day. I need you to get on my hype train with me, Gavin. I know you're only 4 years old, but I need you hyped like dad is hyped heading to daycare.
Step it up, man.
And I was in the front seat and I was like, woo, and I started clapping. And he didn't know why we were clapping, but he also started clapping. He's like, we're clapping in the car, and Hudson's over in the car seat behind
That's
me. Like,
awesome.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm just here. So
yeah, I love it.
But anyways, I had a topic that I wanted to run through with you that kind of came to mind just a couple of days ago. It's something we've talked about a lot. And it's surrounding this topic of raising capital. It's a big topic within the STR or investment space, real estate investment space as a whole, right? And I think a lot of people put a lot of weight with it, and they think there's some like secret 26-step process that goes into raising capital. And I'm sure you may talk to some people that have a 26-step process to go into raising capital, and it works, and that's great. But there's a secret ingredient many hosts overlook when it comes to effectively raising money for deals and projects.
This is spreadsheets.
Bingo. Well, I'm gonna do one to you here, Mike. I'm not gonna give you what that secret ingredient is until maybe about halfway through. So I want to talk through some of the things that I think a lot of people get hung up on, and then I want to dive into what we've used that has been successful for us in the projects we've raised capital for.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
That's awesome.
So I think one that is it's very important. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily a step, but it's when you are going through and running numbers for a project, not just like throwing a bunch of random numbers out there, actually having an accurate pro forma in numbers. I don't care what secret ingredient or secret sauce you have in raising capital. If those aren't believable or accurate in that fashion, I think the project itself, you're not going to get anyone to dive into that project, regardless of what you do from a systems and process perspective.
Well, we had that objection a lot where people are like, how do you know this number? Right. I remember that all the time when we tell them this. And in the beginning, there's a lot of research, just phone calls, you're calling like random people and trying to get that. But nowadays it's like, oh, well, that's because this property, and this property are right next door. And they're all doing that. Like I have the actual, receipts, invoices, whatever for the last 24 months. And it is night and day when you're talking to them and all of a sudden you're like, no, this is exactly how I got it. They're like, I don't even want to ask my other questions because you seem so confident in it. So
Right. Yeah. And it starts with that. And sure, like maybe your first deal out the gates, there's going to be some numbers that are maybe a little bit high, a little bit low. What we like to do with those numbers, though, regardless, is we always like to give ourselves a little bit of a cushion, a buffer, right? Whatever we think our projections will be for certain expenses, we typically add, 10% is typically our baseline. Get 10 to 15% to that, and basically tell whoever you're pitching the deal to that says, listen, we've projected these expenses higher than what they probably will come in at, but we do that in a way to be conservative, where we can come in and we can, over deliver once the project is in place, right? And there are some numbers, like for example, like internet, typically we can now hit that one pretty much on the head because we know what it is per month across properties.
Yeah.
So there are certain numbers that you can hit on the head, but I think it's wise to add that cushion.
Even when people don't, like if you're new to this and you're going out, like you still need to have accurate numbers, right? So you can call, like for the internet, for the electricity, like you can call those companies, call the internet provider, or call the electricity company and ask them what the average is for this, or find some other hosts in your area and say, what is it that you're paying on average across the year, your annual, right? And then just put that in as your monthly number each month. There's a lot of people that are willing to give you some of those snippets, right? There's no reason to have to guess. If you live in Seattle and you're renting out in Red River Gorge, right? You don't want to pull your Seattle electric bill on a studio apartment and then put it in for a 4-bedroom house in Gorge. It's completely different. So as long as you have an answer to how'd you get it or how do you know that's accurate, I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Like you said, it just simply comes down to a phone call, right? I think for me, that was for whatever reason, was one of the more daunting tasks when I first got started, was when I was running pro formas. It was like, I got first line item in the pro forma, like electric. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to know that? Like where am I going to come up with that number? And then, everyone's like, no, you talk to people, make phone calls, right? And you can get those numbers pretty easily. So accurate numbers is a big one. The next one that you won't have right out of the gates, but you will eventually, once you get more deals under your belt, is a reputation and proof. I think that goes a long ways with people. Is like, you're not just saying like, this is a great deal and I believe it's going to, do 150,000 without any deals under your belt. Having proof and a reputation that you can deliver the advertised returns that you've laid out for investors will definitely help, because it's like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. This isn't his first rodeo. He's done it before. He's been successful. I have, faith to believe that he'll deliver yet again, because he's done this 10 times before, and he's batting 1,000. He's 10 for 10 on those deals. So
it takes a little while, but definitely focusing on that from your first deal to say like, I have to execute on this. I think it also goes back to number one, right? The more accurate your numbers are, you build in a little bit of padding, you under promise and over deliver, right? Then those people immediately are like, hey, let's roll this back into a number, right? It's hard to find people like you. So I want to make sure that we do this again.
Right. And as every deal goes forward, normally you're going to get just a little bit better each deal. You're going to get smarter, right? And we've done that ourselves for deals, where every single deal we seem to do, we get a little bit smarter in one certain area of the investing space, whether that be design, whether that be the build, whether that be, financing. We're just compounding what we're learning along the way. And I think many investors will do that as they do multiple deals. The third one is, I think, again, one you hear all the time, but the quality of network of individuals that you have that have capital is key. I don't think it's the secret ingredient per se, but it's definitely necessary. If you don't know anyone that has money, it becomes a little bit more challenging to reach out to random people and say, hey, invest in this deal with me. I need $50,000 worth of your money to invest into this deal to hit this return. Most people be like, okay, who are you? Now, it's not to say that's not possible, because we have had that where we met someone for less than 24 hours and they were like, what are the numbers? We laid them out and he's like, perfect, here's the money. Like that's probably a little bit rare, but you got to start building your network of people and talking to people that actually have money.
That though too is something to start today. I don't care who you are, what stage you're in the investment. If you're looking for investment in the future, start that today. Start a spreadsheet, put all the people that you can down on it, figure out like, who's the highest value, the lowest values, the most likely, the least likely, warm, hot, cold, whatever you want to label it, right? But just start having those conversations. And so many people, I think probably 90% of the people, they get in when they need the money and they're like, how do I get it today? And it's like, you can't, right? Stop asking that question. That's what you need to focus on. Stop asking that question. Go back to the beginning, figure out something else to do for 6 months, build those relationships, right? You don't meet someone on the street and say, hey, can I have 50 grand? Right. And that's exactly what you're doing with these other people. If you haven't really proven yourself, if you have, then you're ahead of the game. Right. So go build those relationships. Make sure you've like quantified who it is you're looking for, who would be interested in that type of deal, and just strike up a conversation. Don't say anything about investment, right? Just go to them and say, hey, how you been? How's your family? I heard you had a baby. That's exciting, right? If you're in the area, let's get dinner one day. Don't talk about investing. Just sit. So.
Yep, I agree. And I think I've heard you say this before, Mike, when it comes to, anything within real estate, whether you want, more reservations, whether you want, increased attention on social media, whatever it may be in these different areas.
Skip short term.
Right. Normally it's not going to be today, right? If you want more reservations, like sure, you may get a last minute booking by dropping your prices down 90%. Probably not a strategy we recommend, but you got to start today to build and get these reservations or get investors into the future. If you focus on today, you're going to be wildly disappointed.
Yep. And you're always going to be chasing at that point. Yes. You're just behind and you'll stay there.
Yeah. You're just going to be stressful and you won't be doing this very long. So, but you did bring up a good point. I think it does kind of slightly adjust my secret ingredient per se is, so we talked about accurate numbers and projections are important. Proof and reputation, very important. Having quality of network of individuals with capital is important. I would love to come up with a fourth one from a cool 26-step process that we followed, but spoiler alert, unless you're not telling me something, Mike, I don't think we followed a 26-step process for raising capital.
No.
I really don't think we have.
My 26 steps were throw 26 pieces of pasta against the wall and then figure out which one stuck. And I lost count. And I was like, I don't know which one that was, but something worked.
I was going to say it was maybe 26 conversations that you had with people just
Could
over
be.
and over and
Could
over
be.
again.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think the secret ingredient that a lot of people just aren't focusing on when it comes to trying to raise capital for those deals is passion, right? Showing that you're passionate about a deal. And I did say I was going to switch what this secret ingredient was. It's passion and conversations. Passion and conversations. I think those two things alone, there's no, I think you can run off the notion of, it's a numbers game, right? Okay, have 100 conversations, maybe 10 people invest, whatever it may be. Just talk to as many people as you possibly can. Yep. But at the end of the day, the numbers and the strategy, I honestly, pardon my French, doesn't mean shit if you are like talking to someone as a robot, right? It seems like you're reading from a script. You're reading, it's like, hey, I have a deal out in Kentucky. It's 20% cash on cash. Like, people are like, great. Like, are you tired? Are you not excited about this deal? Is this like a homework assignment for you, right? It's showing passion when you're talking about a project. You're excited about it. You're enthusiastic. It shows that you actually believe in the deal, right? Versus just being, I don't know, just running through the numbers with someone and be like, all right, great. At that point, it almost just seems like you're just asking for money. Versus if you
go ahead.
I was gonna say I know you're excited because you got something to say. Versus if you show that passion, it almost becomes more of, it feels like a partnership, feels like a win-win, right? It's like, I'm passionate, but I'm in need of capital to get this project going. But you also are in need of someone who is passionate and cares about the project that's going to deliver on the numbers versus someone who is just going to, go through the motions and hopefully hit the numbers.
So that's what I was going to say is like that passion rolls over into so many different areas. And it's, I don't know, I'm going to back way up, right? When I was in San Diego and I started to get on dating apps, right? Prior to getting married now and a beautiful family that I have, I was on dating apps. And I remember people saying like, this is so shallow. You have 5 photos or 10 photos back then. It's like, you're going to judge somebody based on that. And I was like, I kind of disagree because if I have 5 photos of me in a setting, right, that tells a lot more than just photos of me, right? It's, am I hiking? Am I at a club? Am I drunk? Am I wearing a button up? Am I wearing a tank top? You know what I mean? There's so many things that you get in that. And I think it's the same thing with the passion, right? The passion in the conversations with us. You said, the consistency of conversation overcomes almost every objection. If you show up time and time and time and time again, and you're excited about it, that wears on people. So if they have questions or whatever, they might overlook a couple things and say, you know what, like this kid's got the grit to do it, right? He showed up every time. He's been at lunch, he's been at dinner, he's been at the job site, he's been at whatever it is that we asked him to. And I can see every single time that he absolutely loves it. And to do that 10 times over is challenging. Right? If you're faking it, you're not going to show up 10 times.
Yep.
Right? So I've got 2 stories. two stories about
Dude,
how
let me
passion.
let me get my popcorn real quick.
You do, right? Like hit play on the movie and let's knock this out. So the first one is a failed passion story, and the second is a successful passion story. First one, you and me, with someone that we know, were on a pitch one day, and we showed up. And while I will say I still have a lot of work to do with my office and like the setup in here, I think it looks okay, right? It doesn't.
I think you're doing great.
It doesn't look like I'm sitting in like my sister's sloppy bedroom with dirty clothes everywhere and a broken fish tank behind me and all that kind of stuff. So we showed up one day to an investor call. There were 4 or 5 people on the call, 3 people pitching and 2 people that were listening. And they listened and they were very nice. And they were, I don't know, not double our age, but time and a half our age. And the third person that was on the call with us that was pitching showed up with a hamburger, dirty laundry on his bed in the background, right? And just some things that kind of showed that the passion might not have been there, right? It was almost like, I don't care enough to fix this, but I'll show up, right? And then he ate a hamburger on call. So to jump to the end, we did not get that investment. It was a small investment. We did not get that investment, but we did get good feedback, which we already knew. We got good feedback from the individual that we were pitching that said, look, if you're going to pitch me, like, that's beautiful. I've seen 1,000 of these things. I actually like what you guys are doing. He's like, but don't eat on the call. He's like, you got to know your audience. He's like, I'm a boomer. I grew up in the generation where we had to shave our faces and wear suits to work, right? He's like, when you show up in your dirty bedroom, slouching on the call with a tank top, eating a hamburger, he's like, what it tells me is A, you don't care enough to get ready for this call. And B, you haven't planned enough to eat before you got on, right? And it was just gross. So that being said, there's the passion kind of overlays a lot of that story. That being said, right, did not get that deal. Story number 2, right? Story number 2.
I'm like a little kid at Christmas waiting for story number 2, by the way.
I love this story. So I don't even know where to begin. The biggest investment that we've got, right? A $2.5 million deal. And in order to get the deal, I'm going to say I called personally, I think 72 banks, right? The team called an additional probably 5 or 10. It was primarily my job. I called 72 banks over 11 months, right? The only thing that drove me through that miserable process was passion. That was it. I was like, I'm getting this deal done and I don't care what anybody says about it. It's going to happen, right? So I'm going to get it to the finish line. And I believe that with a lot of the deals that I put together because of the top list of things that you had listed, right? I know my numbers, I've got the investors, that kind of thing. So we wind up getting a lender, have a great relationship with her, right? And I don't know, 6-7 months into the build process, she comes out and she sees where we're at. Maybe it was a little bit less than that. She sees where we're at and she's like, oh, wow. She's like, you've, their stuff is up. That's great. Whatever. And she leaves and everything was great. We just kind of went on status quo, right? She said she was excited, whatever. Well, she came out, we've launched 2 or 3 at the 6, and we're going to launch the rest of them in the next 30 days here. She came out towards the end and she saw the finished product of the first 2. And she's like, I have to tell you this. She's like, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to lay it out there. She's like, I thought I was going to get fired from giving you this loan. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, when you sold me, she's like, you sold me on this vision and this product and how great it was going to be and where it was. And she's like, the only reason that I pushed that through with the board of VPs of her bank is because of how passionate you were about the project. I was like, that's the only reason she got it through, right? But that being said, to prove my point that life is an illusion, right? The only thing that got that through was that passion. She came back out at the end about a month and a half ago. And she's like, I cannot believe what these look like. She said, when you brought me out here for that first visit, she's like, I messed up. She's like, this guy sold me on this and it does not look like what I thought it was going to look like. And she's like, this is ugly and there's no way that it's going to rent. And this she couldn't see the vision, right? She didn't understand what we were actually going for. And it still had a lot of work to do. Like, to her defense, it looked really bad. What I was seeing was a finished product. But that being said, $2.5 million out of a local bank in Kentucky. right? And the thing that sold that was the passion. Now, fortunately, I had enough passion to get the project finished, so she's not going to get fired. And it does look good now. And she actually does like the project. It kind of went back to what her vision was. But
Yep.
that being said, that is a very large loan to get through based on passion alone. And she said those exact words to me.
Yeah.
So
It's I remember you mentioning that where you're like, passion really played a big role in that, and that story. I remember you saying that. I was like, it's cool to see it, like when it's like that moment of like, she didn't want to tell you when she was on site the one time where she was like, boy,
Yep.
Mike, like I'm a little worried, right?
Yep.
But then when she saw it come together and it was almost like that weight was lifted off her shoulders, she's like, oh my gosh. But again, that passion shined through. And back to the first story, I think another thing that plays a factor in that, and I think it's just for us, it's standard, it's easy, and it's first impressions, right? And we take pride in that even with our properties themselves. A first impression when you go to arrive to a property or enter a property. I've always told the story of like, close your eyes and imagine two scenarios, right? One is you drive up, the lights are on, the temp inside the property is perfect, the door handle feels luxurious, the rugs are laid out perfectly, there's a note on the table perfectly placed, it's lit up inside because you got there at night, versus the person that goes up and the road's bumpy and the lights off and the cleaners forgot to turn the temp back on and the rug's flipped up and the note's upside down on the counter, and all these different things, right? It's that first impression that starts things off on the right foot. And then I think what you do from the first impression is you take them home with passion, right?
Yep.
All the way through the end. I think that's something, if they were to talk, let's say that investor had 5 investment calls that day. I guess we haven't talked to investors to know this for certain, but I'm almost convinced that if they would have those 5 conversations and 4 of the 5 were better deals than ours, but they came in just kind of going through the motions, walking through the numbers,
Yep.
versus ours that were, maybe the numbers weren't as great, but we showed that passion, I'm confident they would go with us over those investment deals.
Well, and there's a lot to be said too with every deal starts at its peak and goes down from there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that are like over time, they'll build back up. You're going to run into issues. You're building houses. You've got all these different complexities. Like it's going to be a turbulent ride. And a good investor knows that, right? They know that what I'm looking at right here is as good as it gets. So if it gets tough and all of a sudden that person that's there doesn't have the passion to drive through, that's a problem for your investment.
Right.
Right. Versus if you're like, it doesn't matter what it takes, I will get through this. Right. That's going to be a better return than the person that failed and lost all your money.
Yep, exactly. So I think it's one thing. Now, sure, once you get passion down, I don't think you stop there. Sure, like if we get to a certain level, maybe there becomes a more analytical, strategic approach that we could take. I know we've talked to James one time, and he kind of mentioned this process of, he has a way, like when he talks to people, he talks a little bit about the deal, but he's not going to share numbers and returns to you in person, because he has a strategic approach where he knows if he gets you in a certain setting, he gets you in his office. I don't remember what he told us the percentage like close rate was, but wasn't it like above 75%?
I was going to say it's 70 or 80% at least, but they have to get into his office.
Exactly. But he also has the passion. He has the reputation. His numbers are accurate, but he knows too, like, okay, he's taken something that's worked through passion, through being able to talk to people and how he goes about raising money, and he's optimized it, right? So I'm not just saying passion is going to, take you home to everything. Well, passion is going to carry a lot of it today.
And I don't say you can't be passionate if you don't know the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. If you go in there and you're like, oh, I don't know, like Jordan just told me about it before this call, like I can't go in there and pitch it passionately, because one of the things that gives me the passion, the display of what I'm going through is understanding it backwards and forwards. I know that when you start asking me questions, I'm like, already thought of it. This is what we got. Already researched that. And this is what we got. Already been in that situation. This is what we did. Right. Yep. And those kind of things. I'm like, there's nothing that you could do to throw me off my game with an investment in the Redford porch today. Right. Mm-hmm. I've got the context. I've got the experience. I've got the numbers. I've done the research. I know what works. That being said, I'm going to go in there and be like, I own this room. It doesn't matter. There's nobody here who knows more about this than me. So if you're not a good fit for the investment, that's fine. But I know it's not because I didn't know my stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that really, it doesn't drive the passion, but it allows me to go in there with a whole different sense about me and be like, A, I love it. B, I've done it. And C, like, you're not going to be able to throw me off. So let's have a normal conversation.
So a bonus point before we get into the Would You Book It segment, you brought up a good point there, is once, and maybe it doesn't happen on the first deal unless you're a rock star. Maybe it does. Is this mentality of going into the deal and not coming across as desperate, right? Like I remember on our first raise, I was passionate about it, but I was also, I'm sure the investors could kind of sense like, I was like, hey, I really want to get this deal done. I really, really, really want to get this deal done. So there was a little bit of level of passion that came there. But eventually you're going to get to the point where if you can start pitching it from this perspective of, hey, we have a super exciting project that we are extremely passionate about, and it's gonna blow the socks off of everyone.
Yeah.
And guess what? We would love for you to be a part of it, and we would love for you to be on board. Here's the money we're looking to raise. Here's what we need. Yada yada yada. And then you come in with this, and you say, but just know this: if it's not a good fit for you, that's more than fine. But just understand, we're going forward with this project regardless, right?
Yeah.
You're presenting it at that point as an opportunity to invest versus a desperate, like knocking on their door, salesy approach of like, hey, do you want to invest? Do you want to invest? Do you want to invest? Like that's going to push people away versus this mentality of like, hey, here's an opportunity presented to you that I'm extremely passionate about and I'm confident is going to deliver. Would love for you to be a part of it. And again, it has to be a win for the investor standpoint. Everyone's got different goals. And we tell this to investors like, hey, we'd love you to be a part of it, but if it doesn't fit your goals, your numbers that you're looking for, that's fine.
And vice versa. We have fired investors that said, yes, I want to invest, but then immediately after that, for lack of a better word, they got super annoying.
Yep.
And on the flip side, right, the best this deal is going to look is when we're pitching it to you today, and then it's going to go through a bumpy ride to get to the other end. Exact same thing with investors. Right. The best it's going to be is like right there at the beginning. And then you're going to have a normal relationship that happens after that. But if they, within that first week are like, or before they even invest, right. If they start to get, legit for like lack of a better word, super annoying, right. Tell them they're not a good fit. There are a lot of people in the world with money, right. Mm-hmm. You've just got to figure out how to get in front of them. That being said, don't take money from every single person because that will take all your time and all of your bandwidth, and you won't be able to focus on the project. And if you're new at it, that's the worst thing in the world.
Yep, exactly. So raising capital, biggest thing, have conversations, be passionate about it, and eventually pitch it as the deal as an opportunity, not something that you're desperate for money for.
Yep.
So cool.
Killer, man. I like that. That's a really good one that I've never heard in any of the courses that I've taken.
Yeah, it's always seems to be the simple approaches that seem to work the best, honestly.
Yep.
I remember we were in that mastermind, and they had a process and approach and a numbers calculator for how many calls you should make and how much capital you needed to know that people had to convert. And I just remember people from that group coming to us later on and be like, how'd you guys raise money? It's like we had conversations and we were passionate. Those two things. That alone was our success.
Yep.
Hey guys, real quick, just want to jump in here and say, if this show has been sparking ideas and helping you level up your short-term rental game, we would be so grateful if you drop us a 5-star review. It helps us and this show reach even more people who want to build wealth through unique, unforgettable stays, just like you. So thanks for being a listener. Now, back to the show. Let's dive over to the Would You Book It segment. Let me find my page here. I believe you went first last week, so I'm gonna kick it off here and give you an opportunity to find one. Granted, it takes you 5 seconds to find.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's just rude. You know what I mean?
I'm interested in this one. This is an interesting one. Some things I like, some things I don't.
Is it a bus?
It's a bus, man. It's the city bus and show. Level the playing field.
Too funny.
I was just gonna present it with passion and see if it changed your mind.
Hey, I dropped the ball. Maybe we should have done that for the Would You Book It and just really see if we could get someone on board through passion. But anyway, so the Would You Book It segment, for anyone new that's listening, me and Mike, we pick a viral amenity, design trend. Normally it's a cabin, and we try to look at it from the perspective of would you book it as a guest and would you book it as a host? And typically it needs to be unique, it needs to be desirable. We're not looking for a standard log cabin in Gatlinburg to lay our head down. Now, I'm not saying Gatlinburg's out of the markets that we can't look for properties in, but it's got to be unique. It's got to be something that stands out. So, with that being said, let me share the property that I found. Screen, here we go. All right.
Oh,
Yeah. So I have the
Arkansas.
out of all places, right? Stargazing Planetarium Treehouse Beaver Lake View.
All right.
The photos I thought were this. I think what really drew me in was this, right?
Yeah.
At first I thought they were two silos next to each other, and I'm like, well, Mike's gonna say probably yes right away because we have these already.
Yep.
But I went through
Oh,
and
look at that.
I thought it was unique. Like some of the design is very like, it's very simplistic. It's good. Don't get me wrong, right? I want to start with that. The lighting in the hallway there is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that like leads between the two or where that goes, but some
Dude,
areas
these are cool.
yeah, they're good. Me being the nitpicky person I am, there are some things that I would improve, but nonetheless, so far we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
Let me get past just the interior. I want to get to those. So this I think is the left little dome top area with these cool windows. Again,
Like a
bedroom.
loft, yeah.
Yeah, cool little area. And then you get over to,
Dang.
I don't know if that's a projector loser. Oh,
That's
so
got to be the ceiling.
that's just a projector on that same ceiling.
Yeah.
Which again, cool photo. But then I think this one is this is the
actual view deck.
Yeah, the stargazing one. I wonder if either the glass has that. I wonder if there's like lighting in it or something.
Yeah.
Color changing lights. Yeah.
That's cool. Dude, that's really cool. Look at that.
Yeah. So they're really leaning into the dome and the stargazing a lot. Got a pretty decent view there. Yeah.
I like this.
They really leaning into that design even in the shower tile.
Yeah. That's
right?
smart. Yeah.
So yeah, the unique little place in Springdale, Arkansas. They seem to have a lot of the same photos, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. What's your we got deer too, Mike. Just got to throw that last one in here.
Look at that, dude.
I
do love when the last like 1 to 5 photos just like it's like just in case.
It's like you could no offense to this host, but you could have just stopped right here even, stop on that one and be done.
Yeah. Well, I think you could just look at the one above that with all those trees around there. It's like, I would look at that and be like, I know there's deer here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't need to put that, but yeah. And that's okay. The rest of them are pretty good. For me, to be honest, would I stay there? No. It doesn't interest me whatsoever from a guest perspective. I think it's cool. I just am not big into stars. Right. I think they're neat. I love going out in nature, but I'm not like, I'm never going to look through a telescope and be like, wow. So just my personal personality and interest and whatnot, I wouldn't. I do think they've done a really good job. From a host perspective, I'm like 30% yes. If the numbers made sense, yeah, for sure. Right. If the numbers were there, the things that like get me is immediately when I see it, I think to myself, oh, there's going to be a lot of complaints about the window being streaky. Right. And it's like, how are you going to have someone go out there and clean that glass every single time? It's like, that would be really challenging. And I don't know what the total available market is for like sky lovers,
Right.
So I don't know. I'd probably say no on both fronts, but I would from a host perspective, I'd be willing to be overridden with really good numbers.
Yep. Yeah. So before I get into yes or no for me, one thing I noticed here, before I get into yes or no for me, one thing I noticed here.
Huh?
Well, but to me,
that's pretty good.
It is good, but to me, that's surprising because I've seen, again, no offense to this host and no offense to this property. I've seen way better properties than this one. Yep. I would even be convinced that we have some properties that are better than this one.
Yeah.
I think maybe most of our properties are better. But again, I guess it's just a matter of who you talk to. I'm sure they knew someone that could get them into this and they were voted in, per se. But I just thought that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they only focus on, Airbnb. Like that is their primary focus. They focus on that OTA. There's a lot of people these days of super nice properties that aren't even on Airbnb, right? They're just crushing on direct because they've mastered that science. And a lot of people, they they know of them from that, and other people will never discover them. But nonetheless, for me, I'm with you on the guest side. I would stay here if someone invited me out and they're like, hey, we're going to go stay at this place. Would you love to come hang out for a while? I would think I'd probably say yes. I'm not really in the business of just hanging out to waste time. I really like working on the stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, and I didn't look in the amenities, I don't know if it has a hot tub.
Oh yeah.
Again, like
Yeah.
it's a small thing, but like for as cool of a place as this, I think if you had other amenities with it, it would do much better it would be more desirable from a guest perspective versus just leaning into looking at stars, right? I think you look at stars one night and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Now what, right? I don't want to look at Jupiter again tomorrow.
I was gonna say you just spend all night on that telescope, just fall asleep right there.
Last night we were looking at Uranus, and we're looking at Uranus tonight. Sorry, I'm
have
still
to put a disclosure on this one.
I'm still a child, but
That's awesome.
Anyways, from a host perspective, same thing. If I were to get this project today as is, unless the numbers work, I'd probably have to pass. It is unique, but I just like there'd have to be something more than just stargazing, right? If it was up next to a cliff and we had a hot tub up in the cliff, then I think it could probably do very well, and maybe some improvements on the interior design to make it even more bold. But I think it'd probably be something that I would pass on. So I'm with you.
Love it. You want to see mine?
I do.
Mine is surprisingly a little similar, kind of. It's not as high as yours is, but it's got a lot of glass. So this is an entire home in New Mexico, Taos. I'm really fascinated by homes that go into the ground. I don't know what it is about it. It just seems really easy to me. And I know that that's not true. They just covered up a house with dirt. Right. But at the same time, like I just get really fascinated on this.
Before you go to the next photo, I just want to point something out. And I think you won't be able to look past it. Those windows right there, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like a 1970s or 1980s, like Wendy's restaurant. You know what I'm talking about? You ever seen those windows where it was like that sunroom type look? That's exactly what I think of when I see that.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And I know exactly what you're looking at. This changes it a little. I never saw
a little bit. I would agree.
I actually didn't notice that it's all the way through. That's kind of cool. So you got dirt and dirt, but to me, it just is like really unique. I'm interested in how they did this, if it's actual concrete or stucco or what, but I think it looks cool. It's definitely got like its own New Mexico like charm to it. I love this, right? The interior is just simple, right? I think everything fits this like Spanish New Mexico style theme. They don't have deer, but they have dogs. It's kind of cool. Way cooler. Let's go this direction. It's just simple, but it really does to me. I don't know. There's some things that I see, like the fact that these are on concrete piers, right? I'm like, oh, that's great. Like to me, they care, right? I think the wind would be a little brutal out here, but at the same time, it does look like a cool spot. So, what you think? Before you answer, the one thing that I noticed that really stood out is 971 reviews and 4.9. 12 years hosting. But I was like, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot of reviews.
Does it say like one of the first house I built myself over 3 years while living in a tent?
Yeah.
Again, so this is a good point. So okay, there you go, right there. Off-grid build, as seen on off-grid build, helps with that. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't lean into is the first line of the space. I built this home myself over 3 years ago while living in a tent. That right there has a story to like catches your interest, right? You're like, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
Like you built this yourself, and I think you're more interested and you're more almost invested in it to be like, well, like let me see more, right?
Yep. Yeah, this is kind of cool.
That is cool. For me, from a guest perspective, if I were to just take out the fact that it's in New Mexico, I would book it with the perspective of that I am already a host. and I would want to go in and I would want to like see different things that I could pick up on to
Yep.
possibly implement into my other properties.
Fair.
Right?
Like this indoor outdoor garden.
Right, exactly. Like things like that. Now, if I were scrolling through, Airbnb and saw this versus I saw something that was, I don't know, more modern, I will say.
Yep.
Knowing I would more than likely be traveling with my wife, I would probably pass on this one and go
Yep.
for the more modern one. But
Yep.
again, it is cool. And it would be one of those I would want to stay in to just experience it
Yeah.
and see what it's like. Now,
Yeah.
from a host perspective, I would like to host it with the caveat that I would like to make some improvements to it.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the simplicity on the inside, I saw the opposite, right? I saw it where I was like, it's a good start, but I want more in that area, right?
Yeah.
I want more design. I want something that's a little bit more bold, and just lean into the New Mexico vibe a little bit more, right? Grabs like it stands out already, but I want it to where people are scrolling through that it stands out even more. But again, I know there's a fine line to where I think they have a theme that they're going for.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I'd be interested to test it and see what it looks like, because the only pushback I'd have on it is 4.9 and 900 reviews. I'm like, and that's an achievement,
right. Yeah. And
they've dialed it in. Now, 976 for 5 nights. I would want 976 for 1, maybe 2 nights.
Right. Exactly.
Not for 5. So I would definitely want to hire. So I'd be interested to know, like, if we do, upgrade the interior, would that get higher ADR or I don't know.
Yeah. Upgrade the interior, possibly if there's other amenities you could add. Could be an option, but
I'm with you. I'm 50-50 on state. I think it's cool. I don't have any desire to go back to New Mexico. So that plays against it. If I was already in New Mexico, I don't really have a desire to be that far away from everything. So I'd probably opt, just to be honest, if I were in New Mexico, I would stay at a hotel.
Yeah.
Right. I probably wouldn't go anywhere like this. I like it. Don't get me wrong. From a host perspective, if this could get higher, I would definitely be interested in it. That doesn't push me a whole lot to be like, yeah, this is like the one that we need to get. I think there's a lot better places to spend your money. But if you could, do some improvements and then drive that to about double, maybe triple, then I'd definitely be interested at that point.
I got a question for you with that property.
Go for it.
Since it is underground, I was just going to say, you just lift it up. You'd have to probably dig it up. But if you could dig that up, lift it, put it on like a helicopter and transport it all the way over to the Red River Gorge in Kentucky, and then have someone build it into the side of a cliff or mountain.
Nope.
It still wouldn't change anything.
I wouldn't do it. You know why? There's
build one.
There's this one. I want to see if I can find it actually. There's this one that I've seen numerous times. It's like a hobbit house that is built into the hill.
Yeah.
So it's already dialed in the increased ADR that I would need. So I'm like, I would rather do that one instead of this one.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
cool. I didn't
nothing
know,
against them. It's a cool place. Don't get me wrong.
Yep. I didn't know if the gorge would sway you one way or the other, but
yeah,
you'd probably be more desirable to possibly stay there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, we already have enough cabins, so you probably wouldn't be staying there, but nonetheless. Well, cool. That one was definitely unique, and it's given off that retro Wendy's storefront vibes. I took me all the way back to my childhood, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But I'm
glad
with you.
I could do that.
But I'm with you with New Mexico, man. I've went through that state twice, I think, and I remember driving through, and I'm like, I don't know if you could pay me money to live here. I really don't. I really don't.
I am in the same boat, and it's a me problem. I have some friends that love New Mexico, and I'm like, I don't know if we should be friends. But no, I'm just kidding. For anyone that does, I don't understand it. I love that you do. Someone needs to, and it's not me. So
I mean, it's the same people that met me when I was out in San Diego, and they're like, "Wait, you live in Iowa?" Like, what's in Iowa other than cornfields? And I really didn't have much of a counter for that.
Yeah.
So I got to work on that. That one's on me.
I just told you.
yeah, right. But
I'm with you.
Well, cool. All right, dude. Well, that does it. Another amazing episode of the Hideaways Show, Behind the Curtain edition. I'm Jordan Holmes. He's Mike Sebastian. Until next time, take care, everyone.